Welcome back to Vic's Projects, everyone, and today we're going to put some coilovers in a Toyota MR2. So for those who watched the fleet update video, you'll know we've had this whole interior out because there was a big leak on this bulkhead here, and thankfully, well, I'm sending in a lovely refurbished clean interior that's all back in the car, and it all works just about. The carpets are dry. All of this is all on the outside. There's no more getting rained on the sunroof from all the condensation. The sunroof never actually leaked actually on this guy. But anyway, I'm babbling because it's really chuffing cold outside. That's why I'm wrapped up in this, and I'm trying to put off for as long as I can. Okay, let's get on to it. As I said before, we don't get a huge amount of time to play up here with this, especially with the MR2 anyway. So when we put the interior in, it was getting a bit late, but we managed to get the rear shocks in. So as you can see, this guy's probably a little bit too low. But we'll show you the process of getting the fronts in, and they're very similar to the rear. So let's move the car around and get stuck in. So first step is jack up the car. Next step is get some cardboard to sit on because it is chuffing cold, and a bit of insulation off the cold concrete really does help. So we sprayed a little bit of penetrant onto all the old rusty nuts and bolts that have been on there for a million years. The next step is to try and wrestle this guy out. So let's get stuck in. Okay, now the tricky bit. These guys came off all right. These drop links, however, they have a little Allen key bolt that goes in the center to hold it still when you take this guy off. Given how old and rusty it is, I really don't want to round these bloody Allen keys. Otherwise, well, the grinder's got to come out. So, got to make sure that that guy's in there good and proper. I've already done this one, wiggled him in and out, scraped out the inside. So fingers crossed we don't round this guy off. Clearly he's on there tight. That isn't going to want to move. Let's just get him spinning first, I reckon. And then we'll wedge the Allen key. Right, now that this guy's wedged, super easy just to let him go. What will happen is it will actually track down this guy, move, and then ping out around it. So make sure you hold the Allen key nice and tight, even if it's wedged up against something. Right, here we go. We have movement. Whether this is good movement or not, we'll find out in a minute. Yes. Yes. So, now that we've got this guy free, that guy free, there's just 4 bolts at the top, so that's nice and easy. Our last job is to get this brake line free. And clearly, we don't really want to just disconnect these guys and unthread it and have to re-bleed the brakes. So the little trick is, now you need to be super careful, is actually just to put a couple of slits in there with the cutting disc so that this guy can come out. Before we get in there with the disc, we'll just remove this little tag and then on we go. This is actually being quite easy. Idiot. Why did I say that? So, rusty old things with nice new shiny ones. So how am I going to set them up before I put them in the car? Well, given we're going to take a little bit of judgment and just be playing with it on the car anyway, I'm just going to set both the same, a little bit lower than this guy, We don't know about spring compression, so relative to when it actually goes on its wheels, this will compress more than this guy. So there's not a huge amount of science that you can do beforehand. So all I'm going to do is take a datum measurement point. So use the ruler from the inside of that tube to this guy. So you actually set the height of these by spinning this one. You know, spin it further up and down. You don't actually set it by this one. This one's normally for the compression. Well, not normally, it is for the compression. So I'm just going to take a nominal measurement now. So 15 mil on this guy. We'll see where we end up. Set these both the same. Have the springs for the initial setup. I'm just going to do them so they don't rattle around. Just do them up tight rather than actually compressing the spring. And then we'll just get her on our wheels and see where it goes from there. Ooh, one thing else is the anti-roll bar links. So I'm setting them about the same height as they are relative to this guy. So these can go up and down, and then we can set the effective length of them. Again, it's just a starting position. Once we actually get it out on the road, out on the track, then there's a little chart that I found on the internet which is really helpful for if it's doing this, then it's this you need to do, and if it's doing that, then try something different. So yeah, enough blathering. These came out pretty easy, so hopefully these go in nice and easy too. Obviously we didn't forget to put the brake bracket on, did we? So on the original suspension, this guy was set facing in, and actually these ended up being on the other side. Now when we put it in the same position here, this guy is far too close to the inner wing. So I think I'm going to rotate this round and then have this guy at, instead of 180 as we have it at the moment, set it up as 90 degrees. Well, that was nice and easy. Much like the rears actually. The rears were exactly the same procedure. So sorry I didn't get any footage, but you know, you've seen how it's done now on the fronts. So it's time to put our wheels on and see how she looks. Now with both sets of springs in, we've brought her out onto level ground so we can start to measure where we are. Clearly the rear's too low and the front's too high. So we've got our handy bit of paper and a ruler. We'll take our measurements and find out how much we're going to change it by. So we got our measurements. We're 150 mil at the back, 180 mil at the front. Actually, when I measure this left side to right side at the back, I get 5 mil difference. The front looks okay, so this guy might be one turn out on the other side. But we now need to figure out how much lower we want it, or higher on this side. So I think we're going to go 1 centimetre up on the front, 2 centimetres down, 1 centimetre up on the rear, and 2 centimetres down on the front to give the car 16 centimetres all the way around. So we're going to take a datum point on the suspension itself and then use that to add and subtract our distance that we need. 4, 5, 6. Doesn't look too bad, does it? We've still got a slight discrepancy between the front and the rear. So the rear is where we want it to be at 16, and the front is just 5 mil higher, and you can actually see it. That's that guy sorted. Well, not really sorted. So the next step, next crucial step, is actually to take it to get all the wheels aligned. So now we've had put all the suspension in, camber, toe in, toe out, is probably all over the place. So that's where it's off to next. Well, we certainly needed an alignment because this thing was driving terribly after we did the suspension change. It was all over the place. However, when we took it in, the guy said, I've done what I can, but the the track rod ends rather, front and rear, are both so rusted up you can't actually fully align it. So we had to go back, change those. It's day before the track day. We're heading back to get it realigned, or fully properly aligned, ready for tomorrow. So fingers crossed, we've got everything that we need sorted. Right, so it's the next day. We're on our way to Castle Queen Race Circuit. So what have we actually done? So the first time I took it to the alignment guy, we'd actually levelled out the car, by the way, by that point. He said you don't actually want it level on a mid-engine car. You want a bit of front brake. So I've dropped the front by 15mm. What else did we do? Camber. So he didn't put as much camber as you'd normally have on here. I think there's about 2 degrees, something like that. The reason being, because it's a lighter car and not as fast in a straight line, with our entry speeds aren't going to be as high, we don't need as much on that turn-in. So he reckoned we'd just be shredding tyres for no real gain. So he's asked me to monitor the tyre temperature to see actually if that's worked properly. So inside edge, outside edge and middle, and that'll tell us how we're loading the tyre in the corner. So that's a really good tip. The other thing we've done, because it's a lighter car and hasn't got that top end speed, we've actually taken some toe out of it. So we're actually quite straight overall. So that should give us a bit less drag. And yeah, so let's thump it around the track and see if it's all worked. I am looking forward to this. Okay, sit rep. So we've been out twice. First time out, oh, I was not feeling it whatsoever. Car was feeling really skatey, just came in feeling really despondent, like we just ruined the car. But so I've taken a bit of pressure out the tyres. They're at 20 all round now. Damper settings were in the middle. I've gone out, had another go, starting to get into the groove, actually feeling a little bit better. Maybe it's just because I was easing off, maybe the track's drying up, getting a little bit less greasy. But yeah, I think I'm going to stiffen up the dampers a little bit more. So fingers crossed for round 3, and hopefully we just get a little bit better as the day goes on. I might ask the guys at the track, actually the guys running the track day, for any advice. So yeah, let's see. The rear is still a bit skatey and nervous. We probably need some anti-roll bar changes. But I'm not really set up to do this by myself at the track today, so we'll have to do that when we get home. Okay, so we've just stopped for lunch. So thinking back, even though I was very despondent this morning, I've realised, well, it was wet, greasy, brand new tyres as well, so they weren't even scrubbed. So no wonder we were just sliding around all over the place and feeling horrible. Now the car's really starting to set in and feel really nice. I think we've got a little bit too much travel maybe, and I've started to add a bit more damping front and rear, and a little bit extra in the rear to the front, only by a small margin. But yeah, the car's starting to feel really nice. It's certainly quicker than it was, because I'm starting to run out of gear a lot quicker coming out of corners, so that's got to be a good thing. So let's have some lunch and then get back out there. We've got some knocking. Whoopsie. So it looks like, despite tightening this guy up till I couldn't get any tighter, it's still rotated around. It's been clashing in here and loosened off this guy, and now he's lost a nut. I don't actually have any more, well, any spare nuts and bolts with me, so I might just run it without for the rest of the day. That's a real shame. So we've had to take the anti-roll bar off. Let's just go back out on track and see what effect an anti-roll bar actually had. Dave.